very simple points, a set of 9 points to solve a problem that is very complicated and that might cause troubles to a lot of acupuncturists, but with this technique we got to a great result. The balance method has this kind of power and we can actually change lives for our patients. Hi, today I'm bringing you a very interesting case of panic attacks. And to treat this patient, I used a technique from the balance method called channel conversion. This is a very advanced technique that uses the Ba Gua or the hexagrams to choose the points we're going to use in the global balance we're doing. And this technique, in my opinion, is one of the best resources for mental health. For some reason, it has a very good impact on anxiety, panic attacks, and any kind of disease affecting the mental health of the patient. If you like the techniques that I talk about in my videos, check out the links below where you can see all the courses I have available. I have courses in Portuguese and in English, so check them out and start learning today. Before we can get into exactly the treatment that I used, I want to talk a little bit about the application of the Ba Gua within the balance method. As most of you probably know, Dr. Tan was a scholar of traditional Chinese medicine theory and he loved the theory behind the Ba Gua. In this application, he uses the early heaven Ba Gua, or this one that you can see here. As you can see, this is a set of 3 lines and it can be a full line or a broken line. In this case, a full line represents a yang line and a broken line represents a yin line. So we have 3 lines that characterize each of the trigrams. In this video I don't have enough time to go through all the theory behind how the Ba Gua applies to the point selection in the balance method, but if you want to learn more about it, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video specifically on the Ba Gua and its applications. But in this case, what's important to know is what is a yin, what is a yang line, and also how we number these lines. So we always count from the bottom. So the bottom line is line number 1, then line number 2, and then line number 3. And also, in order to apply them to the balance method, we need to double the trigrams. So come with me and I'll show you. What I mean is, as you can see here, we have a representation of the Ba Gua or the early heaven Ba Gua, because there's different arrangements according to later heaven or early heaven Ba Gua. This is the early heaven, and as you can see, each of them has 3 lines. And as you can see, Dr. Tan also joined the trigrams with different meridians. So the first one we see here can represent the bladder or the gallbladder, and so on. Some of them are allocated to 2 different meridians, some of them are allocated to only 1 meridian. Again, the theory behind this is very complicated. It focuses on the trigrams, it also focuses on the 9 palaces to get us here, but if you want to learn more about it, let me know in the comments and I'll make a full video about the theory behind the application of the trigrams. But as I was saying, in order for us to apply these trigrams to point selection, we need to first double them. So imagining we're going to work with the gallbladder. As you can see here, it has 3 yang lines, and as I said, we number them lines 1, 2, and 3. But before we apply them, we need to double it. So we would need 6 lines. So we'd copy line number 1 will be the same as line number 4, 2 as 5, and 3 as 6, and then we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 lines. And now, having finished this small introduction, let's go into our proper case. So this was a 30 60-year-old male patient, and he was suffering from panic attacks with a very high frequency. So he was having panic attacks at least once a week, and he said that in most days he felt his anxiety rise. Sometimes he could control it, a lot of times he couldn't. He would have to take medication, and almost once a week he was going to the hospital because of the panic attack, because he couldn't control it at home, even with medication. Obviously, this was creating a lot of problems in his life. He didn't know what to do. He was a very anxious person. He had always been very anxious since he was a child, but the panic attacks were getting out of control. So, during my exam, I listened to his complaints and I took his pulse, I saw his tongue, and the main thing that we could see in the diagnosis was that his pulse was very wiry. And a wiry pulse usually can mean wind, but Dr. Tan would say that if you see a wiry pulse in most of the pulse locations, so in all of the 6 locations, he had 4 of them showing a wiry pulse, it's usually a sign that the patient has something wrong with the wood element. So if we're talking about wood, we're talking about liver plus gallbladder. And so I decided to apply a global balance, combining liver and bladder. So I combined the Shui Yin with the Shao Yang. Shui Yin plus Shao Yang. And as I said, I really like to do channel conversion for mental health problems. And now I will guide you through the whole process of doing a global balance with channel conversion for these 4 channels. So first we start by selecting the channels. So we know we're using Shui Yin and Shao Yang. So the channels are the triple warmer or Sanjiao. Then we have the pericard, liver and gallbladder. So we have the Shao Yang and we have the Shui Yin, right? And now what we need to do is look at our trigrams and see which trigram applies to which of our selected channels. So we will start with the liver, and as you can see here, the liver is the 3 yin lines. And so we write here the 3 yin lines. If you remember what I said in the beginning, we need to double them because we need to work with 6 lines or a hexagram. So we will double them and we'll get 6 yin lines. Remembering again, we count from 1 to 6 from the bottom to the top. Now let's move to the gallbladder. The gallbladder, we can see that it in the opposite spot is 3 yang lines. So 1, 2 and 3, and we need to double it. 1, 2 and 3. Now the pericard is yang, yang and yin. And again, we need to double it. Yang, yang and yin. And we finish with the triple warmer or the Sanjiao, which is yin, yin and then yang. So yin, yin and then yang, and we repeat yin, yin and then yang. And now, in order to see which point we're going to use, we need to do the actual channel conversion according to the Ba Gua. That means we'll need to compare the hexagrams we made for each of the channels. So in this one, I'll use liver and triple warmer and pericard and gallbladder, and I'll compare them line by line. So if we start here with the liver and triple warmer, we see that the first line is the same. It's both yin, so we don't count it. The second line is the same, also both yin, we don't count it. But the third line is, one is yin and the other one is yang. So we know we will need to use the third line. And then we keep going. The fourth, again, yin, yin, it's the same. The fifth, yin, yin, it's the same. And the sixth, yin, yang. Again, we change, so we know we will need to use line 6. So lines 3 and 6. Now let's do the same in the other side with the gallbladder and the pericard. Again, the first line is the same, yang on both. The second line is the same, yang on both. But the third line, we see a difference. One is yang, the other one is yin. So we'll register line number 3. And we keep going. Line number 4, both yang. Line number 5, both yang. And line number 6, one yang, one yin. So we'll register line number 6. So we see that we'll have to use lines 3 and 6 for each of them. But what does this mean in terms of points? Fortunately, Dr. Tan created a table. This table I'm showing you here, where he tells us for each channel what point is represented by each of the 6 lines. So, as you can see here, for triple warmer we'll use points number 3 and 10. For pericard we'll use points number 7 and 3. Gallbladder 41 and point number 34. And for liver we will use liver 3 and liver 8. I don't use the exact locations of the points. I look for ashi points around the area of the point. So I'll give it a radius of maybe 2-3 centimeters around the point and just palpate around it and place the needle wherever the patient finds it more uncomfortable. Along with these points, I only added another point, which was yin tang, which I find that always helps when treating anxiety. And this was the treatment for this patient. And what were the results? We started the treatment twice a week because it was a very serious case. The patient was having crisis almost daily. So I saw this patient on one day and then I saw him again after 3 days. And the patient told me that his anxiety was more controlled than usual and that there were no more panic attacks or those moments where he felt he was about to be overwhelmed with anxiety. But we still kept twice a week for another week. During that next week, he told me that he was sleeping better, that his anxiety was very controlled for his normal, and that he had, again, no more panic attacks, not even the feeling that he was going to have a panic attack, which he had at least once a day before the treatment. We changed for once a week, and again, same feedback. The patient told me that he was not having panic attacks and that his anxiety was more controlled. We kept the once a week for 1 month, and the patient told me that his anxiety was very controlled, a lot lower than his usual self even before he started having the panic attacks. He was sleeping well, and also that there were no panic attacks or the feeling that he was going to have a panic attack anytime during the 6 weeks we were doing the treatment. I took his pulse again, and there was still a bit of a wiry feeling in his liver pulse, but everything else was normal. So we stopped treatment, and from then on I have actually treated this patient's wife for different reasons, and there have been no more panic attacks. This is treatment that might seem complicated in the theoretical part until we get to the actual points, but as you can see with the application, this is a very easy treatment. Very simple points, a set of 9 points to solve a problem that is very complicated and that might cause troubles to a lot of acupuncturists, but with this technique we got to a great result. The balance method has this kind of power and we can actually change lives for our patients. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you know someone who you think can benefit from these videos, share it with them, and I'll see you in the next one.